Hi, so I thought I'd do a video today about all of the things that divide us, just looking at the crazy amount of division in society and talking a bit about how we seek to build bridges across the chasm of popular opinion that has divided us in such a polarised way. So yeah, it's going to be the video. And in doing so, I'll be looking at psychology a little bit, a lot at spirituality. So if spirituality isn't your thing, I would say best scroll past this video now. And yeah, I'll be taking a little look at social media bubbles as well, I expect. So yeah, and if you can hear purring, it's because my cat sat next to me. So we know that it's been a bit of a crazy time with the US election. You know, there's been a hell of a lot of craziness leading up to the election and now post-election too. One lady said today on X very proudly that she'd sacked her employee because they had come up with a different opinion. They voted differently to her. She had tried to educate them, in her words, about what Donald Trump was like, and they went ahead and they voted for Trump anyway, and so she sacked her. And I thought, well, that doesn't help. That doesn't help anybody. You know, if you're doing things like that, you are part of the problem. There's a divide out there and you're just cementing the divide. It's the cancel, delete, culture. It's the cancel, block, delete culture. It's just cementing that as well. It doesn't help. It doesn't help. That's part of the culture that got us all into this state that we're in, where we have many people not having a clue how the other half are living, what they're doing, what they're up to, what they're voting for. There was a bit of shock and surprise, wasn't there, when Trump got in? And both sides are so extremely polarised now. And no level of extreme polarisation is particularly healthy. It's got to be a middle way, you know? And social media bubbles are a problem. They're a huge problem because, firstly, all it does is reinforce your own opinion. It tells you that your opinion is absolutely fine and no one is seeking to challenge that. So you don't get mentally more robust by staying in a bubble. If anything, you get weaker because now you have no idea of any challenge at all, you know. We go through life and the idea is that you build up your persona as you go through life. You build a bit of an ego, you build a bit of a persona that can help act as a buffer against the world, but also help you be more effective in the world. You know, when you're very little, you have no outer skin, as it were, no ability to deal with harsh criticisms and things. But as you get older, you develop a bit of a tough exterior. And you don't want to be overly tough to the point that you don't take on board constructive feedback, etc. But neither do you want to be so sensitive that you run every time you hear anything that mildly contradicts your viewpoint either. And many people are like that. They're in that world now. It's a very babyish response to the world. Sometimes it might be a response that's necessary if you've suffered badly and you're, say, suffering from PTSD or something like that. Then you might need to inure yourself from the worst excesses of the world for a time. But if you're just suffering from a bit of stress and you're just a little bit rattled, you need to come back. You need to come back to the world. You need to learn how to come back to the world, you know? And ideas too are going to suffer in that environment because they are reinforced only by people who think the same as you. And to find out if ideas are good in the world or not, they need robustly testing, they need interrogating by people of all different political persuasions. That's how we build better worlds, you know, it's how we build a better society, through all of us coming together, talking together, and getting used to having different opinions. I don't recall a world like this before recent years, whereby people would just drop someone instantly if they have a different political persuasion to them. Is that healthy? No. Again, it's about a bubble. It's about existing in a bubble in the real world too, you know. And here we are. This is the result. Massive division, chasms of division between us. And how on earth do we get through it? Well, we get through it. It starts with you and me and all of us. We all have to do the work ourselves. You can't expect anyone else to do the work if you're not doing the work. So you have to do the work yourself. And what is the work? Well, the work is self-awareness. It's learning who you are at a core level. So it's learning about the good, the bad, the ugly within you, you know. And in order to do that, meditation is a great tool. Meditation helps bring things to light, such as the shadow side. And the shadow is the repository for the darkness within each and every one of us, as coined by the psychoanalyst Carl Jung. And there's a collective shadow too. And the shadow is the place, all the things you don't want to look at, and the things you haven't got a clue about in some instances. That's where it all lives. You know, if you've got a bit of a temper, it lives in your shadow, chances are, etc. And meditation helps bring awareness to it. It helps you know yourself. And in knowing yourself, you can start to just be a little bit more humble, a little bit more aware that you're not quite the perfect person that you thought you were. Maybe if you're starting to lecture other people too much, chances are you've become a bit egotistical. Chances are you've become a bit self-righteous, imagining that you are, you are holding the key to all the answers and they know nothing. So meditation is a good tool for self-awareness. And self-awareness, again, as I say, it helps bring to light that which is within us, which is a bit darker, that we don't want to acknowledge, but that we must acknowledge. You know, human beings are capable of all sorts of darkness, from things like cognitive dissonance, the ability to ignore truths, whether big or small, to a great degree and pretend they're not there, to things like herd mentality and the extent that you might be caught up in it yourself. You know, you think of things like the Milgram experiment or the blue eyes, brown eyes experiment, for example. So there's all sorts of fallibilities within the human condition, within the human psyche, and we must be aware of them in others and in ourselves. We really must be aware of that. That helps us come down off any sort of high horses we might ourselves have been on with regards to the election, thinking, oh, well, they don't know what they're talking about. But we do. We know what we're talking about. It's them. They're the problem. But they're looking at you in exactly the same way. So who's right, truly? Chances are that there's little elements of truth within both them and you. There's got to be a middle way. There's got to be a way through. But you don't meet that person, really. You don't meet them and expect them to do all the work if you've done none. You know, you have to do a bit of work on yourself. You have to discover a bit more about your own psyche, who you are. And we have to bring spirituality into the equation. I was watching a video the other day, and the video said that the more society is divorced from its spiritual core values, the more that society will itself become degraded, more warfaring, more aggressive, angrier, fall into greed, fall into some lower base behaviours, more primal behaviours. And I think we can see that happening in the world around us, could we not, I think it's pretty evident that that's the reason, that's our primary reason, that's where we're at. I mean, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. We really are. We're eternal spiritual beings, embodied, temporarily housed in these bodies, which are great, but one day they will die, and then we go off into another dimension, and we probably come back and do it all again. I believe that we do. I believe we've been here many, many times, some of us. And when you look at life through that lens, then it becomes a bit harder to just fall into the ideas of greed and power and control and all of these things that have sort of guided mankind wrongly down a dark path for hundreds of years, you know? And we've always had this idea that spirituality it's a nice fluffy thing to believe in, but it holds no real value necessarily. We've placed great primacy in science and logic and reason, and we've really dismissed things of the spirit, but things of the spirit are just as real. They're just as real. And one day I hope we live in a world where we see science and spirituality as two sides of the same coin. And one just informs the other. And I think quantum physics was a way of beginning to do that, because quantum physics is, to me, very exciting and points to the idea of a participatory universe. That you don't just observe, but that your observation of a thing actually calls it into being a bit as well. That maybe just by dint of you being there and taking part, you influence the world, and you influence the world in maybe more ways than you think. And personally, I think that love really influences the world, you know. I think that love and meditation and prayer and all of these things, we sort of beam them up into the ether, but they affect our consciousness. They affect our consciousness personally and collectively in ways that we don't even think about, you know. So that to me is, I believe it's true, and I believe it's the way forward, you know, that we have to move into a more loving way of being, and that we have to work from a heart-centered perspective an awful lot more. We've been in our heads so much. But that hasn't worked as a species, has it? I mean, you know, we've had 2 world wars. There's been an awful lot of darkness on this planet, and an awful lot of darkness can arise sometimes when people are just in their heads alone, because then they can tend to make decisions which, from a cold hard place of logic, can be incredibly cruel in some cases and should never be the case, and you know. So acting with love, with compassion is key, and you have to have self-love and self-compassion. And then when we've done that for even the places within ourselves that it might be darker to bring those feelings to, but we must anyway. And then when we've done that, then we can truly meet another and talk to another and hear what they say and appreciate them for the whole human being that they are. Because we've done the work on ourselves and we've appreciated that, yeah, we're not perfect either. And we have our flaws too. But we can have compassion and great care and consideration for ourselves, and now so we can for someone else as well. So that's the work. And that's the work. And we can't wait, as I say, for anyone else to do that. We have to just do it. We have to do it, because regardless of if they do or not, we have. And so we're raising our vibration. You know, it's something you hear New Age spiritual people saying a lot, but it's true. The more you can come at things from a loving perspective, the more love you are putting out there into the ether. And it's doing something out there in the world, whether you know it or not. It has an effect. And we must hold on to that hope, and we must move forward with love. And we must all try to do this eventually. And I think spirit is coming in to help us as well. I think spirituality is leveling up an awful lot of people right now. There's an awful lot more people channeling and doing all sorts of crazy stuff spiritually. So that's the work. That's what I think we have to do. We need a smattering of psychology, which helps give us a sense that we are more fallible than perhaps we'd like to think. So we get off our high horse a bit and then meet somebody else with a little bit more humbleness in our own hearts. We need to have a bit of a critical awareness of understanding of the world. We have to be able to critically analyse the world as well. I think that's a core life skill now. And by critical analysis, I don't mean just going to factcheck.com or whatever and going, hey, this says it's not true, therefore it's not true. You have to think beyond that and still take a measure of, well, is this true? Is this not true? Have a little look at other sources as well, and just be able to analyse the text, analyse the words used, think about maybe who sponsored that particular website, etc., 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 you know. And then there's the spiritual element as well. And then maybe we can start to build the bridges that we need to build, because we can't carry on in this divisive way. All that happens is divisions are being reinforced at the moment. People just want to see other people as mad or less than. We had this in the UK as well in 2016 when we had Brexit, and a lot of people decided that everybody elderly, they were suddenly calling them boomers and deciding that they held no sway and they shouldn't be listened to anymore and they shouldn't have a voice, which is truly an appalling attitude, right? Because everybody deserves a say, everybody has a voice, and everybody's view is valid, you know? Everyone's entitled to an opinion. You might not like it, but they are. So online spaces as well are really toxic in some instances because they encourage the worst of humanity in a way. I wouldn't say they encourage it, but they're a good sort of portal for it because people act in unthinking ways. They write in unthinking ways. They don't have to look at the human they're writing to. So they can write something much more harshly than they would if they were speaking to someone in real life. So it isn't a place that invites heartfelt communication. And that's what we need to do going forward. We need that heartfelt communication. And we need to be able to meet and talk with our neighbours more and meet and talk with people more in real life, to get back into our hearts, because all of that helps people become more disassociative, and it helps people become more in their heads, and it helps people to become more callous and less kind, and none of that is the way forward. None of it. All that does is create more chaos in the world, and the world doesn't need it. The other point, which I just wanted to make very quickly, is that if we can come together and have more conversations with a bit more love and respect and care, people are going to feel more heard and seen, and thus we might have a bit less of a need to so catastrophically divide to the point of an extreme left view versus extreme right views, etc. Because we're hearing each other more, so there's less need, right? There's less need for polarisation, I guess. So yeah, just thought I'd drop that in. So there is a way through. There is a way through. And if you're not sure about spirituality, just meditate. Just try meditating, because it really does create a great space within you. And it's a toolbox for the mind because it helps create space within you as well. So that when something happens, you can choose how to react. You don't just have to knee-jerk react. You can actually think, well, do I want to react in this way, or do I want to actually say something else? It gives you more time to think and to calm down instead of just reacting in this crazy hot-headed way, you know. And it does help act as a conduit to spirit as well, to this other realm of which we're a part. You know, we're very much a part of it. You're not alone. Even if you feel alone, your consciousness is temporarily housed within this body. But that isn't all of who we are. And you've got a spiritual team around you. You just can't see them. But ultimately, even if you are getting into your spirituality and if you're getting a bit excited about it, you still have to walk your path alone in a sense. You might be, you can have guidance, and that's all great, but don't give your power away too much. Don't allow that guidance to be everything to the extent that you give away your personal agency. You're walking your path. It's my cat using the scratching post, if you heard that. He's trying to tell me it's dinner time. It's okay. Go and feed him in a minute. You're walking your path. No one else can walk it for you. spirit might come up with some wonderful ideas, and it might get very enchanting to go off into other spiritual realms, and some people do. But ultimately, you need your feet on the ground, and you need to be prepared to have that personal agency. You're walking your path. This is about you. This is about you at the end of the day. You've got to individuate. You've got to level up. You've got to face life with a little bit of courage. Open your heart again as much as you can and walk your path with love, knowing you're not alone. And we need spirituality in our lives as well, because we've been through such a fearful time with regards COVID and everything else. And fear keeps us small. Fear keeps us small, but we are not small. If we knew that absolutely that life goes on, that there is nothing to fear, even if you are a little bit afraid of death, and we're all a little bit concerned about a physical death. But at the end of the day, regardless of what that looks like, we go on to a place of great love, where we're received with love. And as I say, we probably come back and do it all over again. And if we knew this place of love, without a shadow of a doubt, it would inform who we are and inform everything that we do. And a lot of our unconscious behaviours, it would just naturally fall away of their own accord, because we'd have this greater understanding, this greater capacity to see what's going on in the world. So we wouldn't just fall prey to consumerism, for instance, because we go, I don't really need that, actually. I don't know. Just go out and meet people and be with people and be more creative, because creativity comes from more of a place of love and joy than it does from fear, right? We're all really creative beings, but we've been funneled into this sort of corporate consciousness. That isn't who we are. I think a lot of us have just forgotten. But it's rare to see true creativity and just fun, spontaneous creativity. And so when we do see it, it's a wonderful thing. But there really are ways through this. So I have great hope. I really do have a lot of hope, because I think spirituality is coming in to help us as well. And as I say, you're not alone. You've never been alone. You are loved beyond measure in this world, but also in the world of spirit. You are loved beyond measure, and you matter. You matter. So never feel worthless, never feel like, oh, there's no point or anything like that. If you feel like that, go and talk to somebody. Go and talk to somebody as much as you can. It's natural for people to feel down sometimes. Of course it is. Just don't stay down. Get back up. You've got God inside you. You are part of the divine. You are here for a reason, and it's a good reason. And governments want to keep you small, because if they can keep you in fear and keep you small, then you are more likely to, just be exploited by them. And isn't our society completely exploitative at the moment? Don't stay small. You aren't small. Don't stay small. Find ways to bring joy back into your heart if you need to do that. Switch off the news if you've just been absolutely mainlining news for the last few weeks. Go outside, go to a dance, do something new. Get offline, talk to your neighbours, do something nice for yourself, play music. There was a Guardian article a little while ago that said young people now are listening to music less and less, and some people just think it's a stupid pursuit. It will make you stupid. I was reading that on X a while ago as well. And I thought, how ridiculous. Music connects us. It connects us to our hearts. It connects us to our joy, our spirituality, our creativity. There are so many good reasons to listen to music. Plus, it probably just lowers your blood pressure unless you're listening to something really, something crazy. So, it's probably good physiological effects as well. And psychological. And it's a bit like poetry or art or any of these things. These things are a way to connect us with with something just beyond the mundane, the physical, the ordinary, just for a second. They take us out of that world. They take us into something else, something numinous, something very beautiful. So do that. Find something good to do. Find something good to do. And as I say, the work starts with all of us. And there's always hope and there's always a reason to try. And if you're caught up in a very fearful perspective, do your best to come out of that as much as possible and lean into the world of spirit a little bit more. As I say, you've got to walk your path, but spirit will help you, and you can trust spirit to help you. You know, one example of that, and it might seem an extreme example, is a lady called Peace Pilgrim. And Peace Pilgrim is a lady who walked across America in the name of peace some years ago. She knew she wanted to do something for God, with God, and that's what she ended up doing. She sold all her possessions and she just did that. Here's my cat purring away. There he is. Lovely boy. We'll feed him in a minute. But yeah, she walked across America in the name of peace and sold all her possessions, and she just trusted in God. She trusted she would be led by the divine to be where she needed to be, and she was, you know. Some people might find that too an extreme example, but the divine is working with us all the time, but it's our governments and our systems that are keeping us small and are keeping us fearful. And when we come at things from a lack perspective, that's when you get a hoarding mentality. That's when you think you must hoard, you must, inure yourself against a future, instead of becoming more spontaneous, becoming more trusting, becoming more open-hearted. So the work starts with all of us. We've all got to go through the journey of becoming all that we can be and moving forward with courage and with great love. So I hope you got something from this video. Hope you're doing well. Hope you have a lovely weekend. I hope if you've been struggling that you can step forward with a bit more trust and a bit more love in your heart. It is a difficult world. There is a lot of darkness out there, but there's also a lot of love. And the challenge for us is to move forward with love, even when we've been beaten down by life a little bit. We're not here to just hide. We're not here to just hide. We're here to be all of who we are supposed to be. Well, for some people that might be going off and meditating in a cave, etc. But for most of us, it isn't that. For most of us, it isn't that. So just be who you can be. Be who you are. Where do your talents lie? What are you doing? Be more joyful if you can. Hold more joy in your heart and hold on to trust. And know that you are here for a really good reason. You're a part of things. You're meant to be here. You matter. And you count, and you are loved beyond measure. So I hope you have a lovely weekend. Take care. God bless.